Hi, everyone. Welcome to this OpenUSD live stream. Today, we are going to be talking about expanding 3D skills for AI and digital twins. Really excited to welcome you all here watching live, watching later, and our panelists. I wanted to kick things off with a quick overview of why we're here, what we're talking about, and why this panel matters. But I do want to shout out everyone here in the comments. So in the comments, if you can say where you're from, where you're watching, why you're watching, we would love to see the amount of people that are here and where you're at. I'm going to put it here on the screen. I know we have some regulars. We have our Omniverse ambassadors. Is anybody new? Is this your first time watching? It'd be great to know as well. And while we do that, I'm going to kick things off talking real quick why we're here. My name is Ashley. I am a senior tech marketing engineer, and I'm going to be moderating this panel today to talk about the incredible shift that's happening in the world of 3D. Skills that used to be associated mainly with games, with animation, and with visual effects are suddenly opening doors in digital twins, robotics, and physical AI. Not new to all of us here, but maybe new to you. And so a lot of people are asking, where do I fit into all of this with those skills that I have? And that's exactly why we wanted to bring this group together today to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to be diving into how your existing 3D skills translate into these new fields, the roles that are emerging, the tools and mindsets that carry over, and what it actually looks like to transition your career. And I want you to kind of think of this as like a practical, honest conversation between us and the panelists about the real opportunities, challenges, and the next steps to take. The reason this matters is because these technologies are shaping everything from how factories run, to how robots are trained, to how AI understands the physical world. And the people who already know how to build, design, and think in 3D are uniquely positioned to lead this next wave. So understanding how your background fits into this landscape can really unlock those new career paths. And I'm joined today by a fantastic group of panelists who've taken different journeys into these spaces. So rather than reading off a very long list of bios, I'm going to give them all a moment to introduce themselves, what they do, how they got here, and their perspective that they bring to the discussion. So Eric, since you're right next to me here, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Thanks, Ash. Hi, everyone. So great to join this panel with you today. My name is Eric Vargas, and I'm just recently got moved into a new role. I'm a senior technical recruiter recently from the university recruiting team here at NVIDIA. And I started off as a sociology major in college. I actually changed my major from architecture. And so funny enough, I started off as an architect major and quickly realized that architecture demanded more creative and creative and artistic skills, which wasn't really me. So I quickly realized I wanted to change my major and decided to go with sociology. And I wanted to keep it general, and have options open for me, something that would be transferable. So my career started off in college advising, working with students to achieve their college and career goals, which I'm very passionate about. And after building some experience, luckily an opportunity opened at NVIDIA on the university recruiting team. And it was a perfect example of luck just being preparation, meeting opportunity. And I've always been passionate about tech and sci-fi throughout my entire life. So I always wanted to work in tech. I just never really thought it was an option for me as a non-technical major. But luckily, the skills I obtained as a college advisor were very transferable to university recruiting. So everything ended up working out, and I'm very grateful for the way things unfolded. And you just never know what doors one opportunity can lead to. So that's how I ended up here, and we'll definitely dive a little bit more into what I touched on with transferable skills and ways to get into these fields that you're looking to get into. So yeah, super excited to be with you all today, and I'll pass it over to Renato.
Thanks, Eric. Yes, I'm Renato. My original undergraduate was actually on electrical and computer engineering. And I had a lot of hands-on projects, building hardware and doing robot stuff. But eventually, once I graduated, I actually moved towards a more IT side of roles, where I started building some enterprise resourcing software. And I kind of missed the time where I was tinkering with small things and building something. So I decided to shift back into robotics, and I went for a master's in robotics engineering. And this led me to a position where I started working with simulation, because everything in robotics now begins with simulation. And this is how it led me to this position where I essentially work with simulating robots in the most diversified scenarios possible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Nandu?
Yeah, thanks, Renato. It's somewhat similar. So my background is in mechanical engineering. I, did in my engineering, we did build like a prototype of a welding robot way back almost 30 years back. And then I used to work at numerous companies in India designing products and as well as manufacturing. Uh, and I moved to US. I was working a lot in enterprise IT applications, and almost 10 years back I got the opportunity to start a makerspace. And that's when I kind of took the jump and then said, like, this is what I got to do. And since then I've been working in 3D printing, robotics, and now 3D visualizations. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Peter?
So great to have you here. Peter?
Hello, everyone. Peter here. I'm a VP of Technology at Monks. We are a technology and marketing services company. And I do focus on technical innovation and adaptation of emerging tech almost all my career. And I also at Monks support our NVIDIA partnership and lead our certification program at the company. My background is mostly software development. So I spent around 20 years coding. I started with web, building some big platforms. But then I transitioned doing some cool stuff with Flash. Then, of course, moved to interactive web. I did lots of front-end animations, WebGL. Then I moved to interactive installations and 3D experiences, which kind of brought me a bit closer to physical space. And I did spend a lot of time building VR, AR experiences, games, virtual worlds, and of course, machine learning and AI. So today I focus somewhere there on this intersection of tech, AI, generative AI, digital twins, and 3D solutions. I'm based in Toronto, and day-to-day I co-lead our technical department at Monks, which includes a wide range of engineering, machine learning researchers, full-stack devs, creative devs, technologists, and even mechatronic engineers building robotics. So super excited to be here and very happy to be working with such amazing team every day.
Thank you all so much for joining. You have such extensive backgrounds, really excited to dive deeper into it. So I appreciate you introducing yourself. A little bit about me. My name's Ashley Goldstein again. I'm really excited to moderate today's conversation. I lead tech marketing for NVIDIA Omniverse. My team focuses on helping developers understand how our core technologies like OpenUSD, RTX physics, and real-time simulation power digital twins, like we've all kind of mentioned in our industries today. Also how they power physical AI and robotics. So a big part of my job is helping people connect those dots between their existing skills and those emerging workflows. So this topic is absolutely something I care about. I've done this panel a few times before at SIGGRAPH, and I'm so excited that we can do it today live for a bigger audience. I've spent the last few years myself working closely with developers, partners, and creators who make these jump between these new spaces. One of the things I learned is that you don't really have to reinvent yourself to be a part of this future. You just need to understand where your skills map out to, what new opportunities exist, and how to position yourself for them, which is exactly what we're here to explore today. Nandu, I might put you backstage if you need a second to figure out your webcam there. Just let me know when you're ready to get back in. And while we wait for Nandu, we'll get this panel rolling on. And we've got an amazing group of people here, as we all heard. All of you have taken your own path into digital twins, robotics, and physical AI. So let's talk more about your journeys, what skills really matter, and what the industry is headed towards, and how you can break into these fields if you're watching as an audience. So really, my first question is going to be to Renato, Peter, and Nandu. But when Nandu comes back, if we can get you back in, all three of you really have come from that technical background, but really in different ways. I saw that some of you came through IT, some of you came from mechanical engineering, and with Renato, I saw that you had done a project on creating an automated wheelchair, which I thought was so interesting. How did each of you get started on this path? Like, where did you want to be when you first got into your education? We'll start with you, Peter.
Yeah, I can kick it off. And full transparency, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was back then at school and university. And I think the profession found me itself as I landed my first job quite early. And at that time, I also wanted to be a bunch of things outside tech, basketball player, professional snowboarder, and so on. But there were a couple of things which did influence me. I think first one, which I recall, was, of course, my mom getting us computer and PC magazines, where I saw first hardware, CPUs, latest GPUs, RAMs. So first thing I remember I wanted to do is build computers, just seeing that hardware. And then when I was at high school, I got exposed to mechanical engineering, so different machines, CNC, robotic arms, and 3D concepts. And that was also first time when I could see myself potentially programming the CNC machines. So that kind of got me into the coding and just exploring different languages. But around that time, I landed my first job, which was in web development. And I was still at high school last, I think, year. So I honestly didn't know how to build good websites and what I was doing. But I had some basics, of course, and then I learned by doing. So I think that kind of brought me to web development where I would start. But you can see how that early interest in hardware and robotics or machinery in general inspired me. And today I connect my coding skills, 3D physical installation experience with my early interest in machines and 3D. So I kind of go back to those beginnings. That's why maybe I today enjoy a lot my role, because I can connect all what I liked at the professional level.
That's super cool. What you said about creating websites kind of like in high school and maybe they weren't the greatest. It reminds me of when I first got started and I learned HTML from creating MySpace layouts. I probably created the ugliest MySpace layouts for my friends, but whatever a start is a start.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was my case. And I think the CEO wanted to just hire better people building websites than he was. And I was the one who could build at least something. So, but that was amazing first chance. And maybe later we have some questions about career moves. But that was the first one where I stepped into totally new industry. I didn't really have any experience in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nandu, I'm glad to see you back on the webcam here. Do you want to talk a little bit about where you wanted to be when you first got started?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned, my background is in mechanical engineering, and during my undergraduate studies, I had elective courses in robotics and CAD/CAM. That really kind of like triggered, my kind of like a passion to say, okay, this is something is what I want to do, and then I worked on projects building robots back then. However, in the industry, it wasn't very predominant in India at that point of time. And then, I started working, for the Tata Consulting Services as the CAD/CAM engineer, and we got some really cool projects to work with. And one of them was I was working with the Indian Institute of Science to build something called laminated object manufacturing. Back then it was called rapid prototyping. Today it's called 3D printing. So got some fantastic opportunity to work on these projects under a professor, because we are trying to build some new stuff. And that kind of was always in the background. This was almost like 25 years back. And then since then I moved on to IT, moved to US. I've been working in a lot of enterprise applications, a lot of data integration, data analytics. And over the last decade or so, got an opportunity, as we mentioned, to start a makerspace and start first robotics teams, and that kind of went back and started working on we built 3D printers for education, which was really fantastic. So open source 3D printers, and then Since then, for the last few years, we've been working on specifically on solving some inspection challenges. And sorry, my camera is going back, but so it's
We can
behaving
still
badly.
hear
But
you.
yeah, so that's that's how I got, and then now I'm back, trying to integrate all of these things and trying to move to Industry 4.0, which is really fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It sounds like we've all gotten started where we're not quite sure, but we just kind of fall into something, move to what inspires us, and that's like probably a very relatable path for many of us. Renato, I would love to hear about your journey to where you first got started.
It's interesting because it relates a lot with what Peter was saying. I didn't have a lot of clues on what I wanted, but I knew it was leaning towards computer science, and building some sort of hardware as well. So what happened was I liked video games from when I was younger, and I liked this idea of working with a computer and imagining things and making them a reality. What really drove me into this path was also parents and their support in giving me the tools that I needed, with either hardware that I could break apart and totally destroy if I didn't know what I was doing, but then in the process also teaching me how to actually do the things in the right way. So the amount of computers that I completely took apart, like hard drives, I tore it down, break things apart, and then trying to put them together so they can work again was one of the things that was really interesting to me. So during my coursework, I always focused on making this kind of interesting projects. The automated wheelchair was one of them. That was kind of a personal project because of a family thing, but also in university, building robots. It was a soft, flexible robotic snake that I worked on. And that was what actually drove me into simulation, because having a model for that snake that was completely reliable was not feasible. We could have some empirical models, like model driven by the foundational mathematics for it, but they were such a high level approximation that a controller will never transfer. So that's what brought me into reinforcement learning, and I needed to have a simulated model for that. So I started building the same model for the snake on a 3D environment, so I could put this on a training on what was at the time Flex and FlexGem from NVIDIA. So that put me on this path of learning more about modeling things digitally, working on the simulation to real aspect as well, because once I had this policy trained, now I have to deploy on the robot, and then figuring out what are the issues that happen when you try to do that. How do you match the simulation data and the behavior back to the reality, and back and forth. So yeah, it was a lot of learning in this process, trying to get all these things put together.
Yeah, it reminds me of I had a professor that used to say strive to fail, and because when you would fail, you would learn because you're trying to always solve problems. So it seems like that is a big thread that we can follow along all of our journeys, and our parents letting us have computers and kind of just messing them up as much as we want. I was very fortunate that my dad was super into video games, and he wanted all of his kids to play Age of Empires with him. So he got us all computers so we could LAN party at home. So getting to interact with computers very young sounds like another thread that we can hang on to when we talk about our journeys, is getting to interact with that technology with the freedom and the creativity to kind of explore it. So I love hearing that. Eric, yours is a little bit different. You said, you were originally going for architecture, but then I saw that you started studying sociology. What led you into changing that degree, and to kind of what were you inspired by?
Yeah, and sorry, Ash, I got a little bit ahead of myself on the intro there, but just to dive a little bit deeper into my response. So yeah, I started off as an architect major, and I was pretty good with 3D tools like Rhino and AutoCAD, and who knows, maybe could have ended up in Omniverse. Just kidding. But I did change my major midway through to sociology. I quickly realized that I'm not artistic or as creative as someone should be going into architecture. I was more analytical, mathematical. So I wish I would have pursued that route a little bit more, but just first generation college student, you're kind of just navigating through and you're not really sure kind of which way to go or, you know, what you want to do. And so I explored different areas and landed on sociology, being more of a general major that I could apply to different fields, since I wasn't too sure at the time what I really wanted to do or what my life's work, as our CEO Jensen always says. I wasn't sure what that was at that time. So I started off with sociology and went with the first thing I knew, one of my passions, which is helping students, you know, helping them navigate their career journeys as I was struggling with my own. And I gained some experience there. I was really passionate about it and loved what I was doing. And got to a point where I wasn't really looking too much more. I thought I had found my career. And then a opportunity came my way. A door was open for me to apply to a university recruiting role here at NVIDIA. And it was a big jump going from, you know, a nonprofit organization working in higher education to tech in the corporate world, you know. And so I wasn't too sure about it. And I had no idea about NVIDIA at the time. You know, this was back in 2017. And so we weren't the powerhouse or the popular name that we are today. So I, you know, wasn't too sure on what NVIDIA does, but I figured this would be a great opportunity. I've always been passionate about tech and grew up, you know, loving sci-fi movies. So to work at a place that was working on the technology, building the sci-fi tech that I loved, I thought it would have been a great opportunity and ended up loving it. And a lot of those skills were transferable. So all that to say, this long-winded story, the moral of the story is that you should always trust in the process, and you never know what doors can come your way by building and gaining experience. So the important thing is to follow what you're passionate about now. What do you love doing now? That can change later down the road, but the skills and experience that you're gonna obtain throughout that time will set you up for success no matter what you end up deciding to do, and it'll create more options for you later down the road. So that was my takeaway with my career journey and what drives me to do what I do today.
Yeah. I really love that you mentioned where Jensen says doing your life's work. I think people can easily misinterpret that your life's work is like this one thing you were hired for. But it's not just that, it's the things that you're passionate about. And we've been passionate about lots of different things throughout our entire lives, not just here in this panel, but the audience watching. Everyone's passionate about something, and that's why we have this drive to keep going and solving new problems. So I want to ask all of you again, what competencies, what skills or actions did you take interest in, and what were you most passionate about that you think led you up to what you're doing now? Nandu, I'll start with you there.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things that's been really passionate about is 3D. Since, you know, I took my CAD CAM course in my engineering, since then I've worked at numerous companies, you know, where I was doing like, you know, CAD engineering, and also worked on a lot of like, you know, with the 3D printing stuff, right? So a lot of like design as well as building parts, and that kind of like you know, has been always in the background for me. And then, you know, since over the last 5 years or so, I've been working on industrial inspections, trying to solve some specific problem within the industry. And now I feel like, you know, I've come full circle in the sense that you know, I'm able to put all the various skills that I've learned, as you know, Eric was also mentioning, you know, over the last 30 years or so, all the way from, you know, from sensors to robotics to you know, CAD and visualization, you know, to address some specific industry challenges. So I think you know, so 3D visualization has been kind of like the mainstay, and it's like, you know, when I look back, it's kind of like surreal that it's like, you know, it has brought me to this situation where, you know, where it's like at a critical juncture, and then like, you know, now we are envisioning, okay, so how can we you know, simulate things, how can we build things that doesn't exist? And you know, I feel I'm at the right place at the right time, and it so of course, I took some detours, but then now I realized that those detours were necessary because it gave me all the necessary, you know, the kind of like the foundational skills And going back to you mentioning about Jensen's stuff working, like it reminds me of the gardener story that he said, where when he was visiting a garden in Kyoto, one of the Zen gardens. So he asked the gardener, what are you doing? And he said, like, I'm doing what is necessary for for the plant, and I'm a gardener here. And it's like you keep working on the stuff that you're passionate about, and you kind of like are curious, and that keeps you going every day. And then you realize things are slowly falling into place, and that's where I am today. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's like that idea of being proactive, like that passion to constantly be driving towards the next thing and being ahead of the game. I talk to my team about that all the time, like looking ahead so that when the problem arises, we're already prepared for it. So I really love that you're mentioning that. Peter, what about you? What skills, competent actions were you the most passionate about?
I would agree with Nandu on passion, and I also would add curiosity. And I think my passion/curiosity was always in building things. And I mean really anything. When I was younger, I really liked sculpturing, 3D paper crafts, drawing. And I feel like similar passion for me translated into building software. And in terms of skills, I think there are like 3 things I would mention. One is technology. I was always super curious to see what new tech is out there. What are the modern approaches to use tech, how to combine it, and how to apply this new tech in my day-to-day work. So I was always looking into new tech, new frameworks, prototyping a lot. And today in AI space or physical AI, there is so many new approaches you can try daily. So I'm back to it, prototyping. Second thing I would say, exploring the possibilities. Because sometimes the technology is there, but we should also ask ourselves, like, what are the current limitations and what is possible to do in certain platform, regardless if it's web, mobile, headset, robots, or any other machinery. But I was always thinking, what was never done, what is hard to do, and what I know maybe in theory would work, but I didn't know for sure until I prototype or kind of prove it. And then third thing is more on the consistency and keep trying and don't give up very early, because sometimes, yes, entry point can be harder for certain areas. But if you put the effort, focus on the outcome, and are hands-on trying things, you will learn a lot. And then I love to say people keep things organized. That also help anywhere you go. And I think I mostly kind of, again, follow my intuition and passion to learn those new things. And that kind of what brought me here. And now, as I explore so many different technologies, now I can be connecting them. Especially if you look at physical AI, there is so many different tech you can connect and create new solutions. So I would say technology, look at possibilities of any platform or any technology you're using, and then focus on consistency and quality of the work you do.
Mm-hmm. And making and breaking things.
Yes, building, making, and breaking. I break a lot of things when I was young as well. My mom always came home, and there was always something broken. Like I built some imagine machines from the Legos, and then I just was doing like, I don't know. I made, I think, a Lego fly at some point in the house, and it was messy.
Yes, fly. Sure. I'm sure it was flying. As a mom, I totally understand what you mean and have stepped on many Legos.
For 1 second, 2 seconds, maybe we can call it flying.
Peter, thank you. Eric, you kind of kicked off this conversation. Is there any more you have to add about like what you were passionate about when you first got started?
Yeah, going back to transferable skills, and I'll touch on this a little bit more later in the panel as well, but I think building on transferable skills has been really key for me, and also subject matter expertise. So being able to take what you're passionate about and find that in the industry or area you want to work on. So for example, we have OpenUSD creators here, and artists and engineers. And so there's many different applications for OpenUSD, especially now today, with simulation, gaming, movies, robotics and autonomous vehicles. So it's really all about finding, what are you truly passionate about? What drives you to do your work day in and day out? And you can find that now because AI has, and simulation has infiltrated every industry that's out there. So for me, that was working with students, working with people to achieve their career goals, especially students from similar backgrounds as mine. And I'm just super grateful and passionate that I get to do that here at a tech company working on the technology that I'm also passionate about. So for me, it's marrying and getting the best of both worlds for me, and hopefully others can find a way to do that for their passions as well and build a career that they don't have to compromise on, and they get to do, what they truly love doing, no matter what areas or fields that's in.
That's so cool. I wish I had someone like you when I was in my early college days. I was kind of all over the place. Just thankfully was able to realize my skills can go somewhere else. I'm not stuck in what I was studying. Renato, what about you? What were you passionate about? What skills and actions really took your interest?
So as I mentioned, like the video game setting, I think it is like a very interesting segue because video game is pretty much what brought me into the simulation world today. So even before that robotics nick that I mentioned, there was a project that when the self-driving vehicles was all the hype, I think it was back 2016, 2017, there was a lot of work on how do we make vehicles autonomous. And I had this idea that if we have good enough quality images generated on a simulated environment, we can use that as a data set for visual perception. So because there was no easy pathway to get this out in the simulation field, I decided why not using a video game. So I essentially picked up the most common video game for driving at the time. It was GTA 5. And I figured a way to actually hack into that so that I could collect the rendered images along with the driving aspects for the driver. So I knew what the motions I was doing, like how much pedal thrust I was doing, how much steering I was using, and connecting that back to the image that I was collecting, I was able to generate a data set that I used for perception training. So I could generate this, at that time was a supervised model for the driving autonomy, so that the agent would know how much to accelerate and how much to drive to steer when they were driving on the scene. And this is actually a very interesting project you can look up on YouTube. But one thing that is important to mention is the skills that I learned there were not how do I program for GTA 5. It was more how do I program? How do I make this environment, this setup? And this transfers to different technologies. Technology is not the key here, is the knowledge that you get in this process. So the skill is the logical reasoning, modeling the problem in a way that you can understand and you can move this forward. So going back on my entire career, I started programming for web as well. It was like HTML, and then along with that was C#. This is not a technology that I use anymore, but the concepts that I used back in the day, like understanding the callbacks for the functions, the timing for things, that was very important on a web service server, but is also very important in simulation. So understanding how you can generalize this kind of knowledge for the different aspects that you're working on. This is very important, and it doesn't connect to a specific language. It doesn't connect to a specific database, or it doesn't connect with a specific learning model.
Yeah, I laughed so much when you said the GTA stuff, because I am such a good driver in GTA. I make sure to follow all of the traffic laws. But I love that it's again, this like thread connecting everybody. We saw something early and we took the opportunities, with you saying like you see a trend in the autonomous vehicles and like, how do I train autonomous vehicles? So it brought up a really interesting point that I want to flag really quick before I start on the next section of the panel. My argument is if building 3D scenes or running sims or animations for getting data from it is a hurdle due to labor and the time of a 3D artist, then automating most of the work of a 3D artist can help. And I think that's a big question that we have when we do these kind of career panels is like the skills that 3D artists have, how are they useful for moving into physical AI? And physical AI is like talking about those, automating some of those hurdles, and how 3D artists, people with 3D skills, complement those more technical workflows. So I'm really glad that someone brought this up, because I think it's a big part of the conversation, is like relating, just like combining and marrying the technical side and the art side. Like when I was in school, I got my degree in fine art, and it was always like art and science, totally separate parts of the brain. They're totally separate sides of the campus physically, like they're not together. But as I move throughout this industry, especially with more and more of our like digital, our physical world becoming digital, like they're one and the same, and having those skills together like really helps. So I just wanted to highlight that really quick.
And
And
then
then talking,
one
sorry, go
thing
ahead.
that also relates to this is creating art also comes with a lot of constraints, and the way that you use your creativity to come around those constraints is like a very broad level soft transferable skill as well, because when we're dealing with solving these problems for AI, we also have a lot of constraints that we have to consider, and how do we work on those constraints such that our final product actually works the way that we expect.
Yeah, perfectly said. And talking more about skills, Peter, I want to pass on to you, because you really do have a long career in this industry where you blend art and design with technology. You said you started off kind of in web design and development, and I wanted to ask you, like, why did you make this career move to technical director and now VP? Was there an opportunity that you saw that you really took advantage of? Did it go that way?
I think maybe the opportunities were more on the technology side. I can cover this later, but to answer the first switch from, let's say, developer, individual contributor to management, for me, this happened more organically in my career. I was one of the lucky ones to have both technical knowledge and then some soft skills, good ones enough, to speak to non-technical audience, translate the technology to non-technical teams. And then, of course, learn much more about planning, estimations, directing the technical approaches. And that would bring me to director level. And then you learn much more about the business, finance, sales, and that's what brings you to VP. And all this kind of happened organically for me. I start by advising other developers, and then advising team of developers, and so on. But I think on the technology side, there were like more interesting maybe shifts, which I did early in my career. But I would say they were not calculated, or I didn't really see. Only opportunity what I saw most of the time is like, oh, there is a new technology and I want to try it. And then I go there, and I become good at it, and then I use it in my day-to-day work. And that was kind of like dictating the switches I did from, let's say, web, more traditional one, to maybe Flash, more interactive one, then Flash to more interactive front end, then you unpack WebGL, then you build 3D experiences in web. It's like we built games in a web browser with high visual quality. So all this combined then was pushing me towards the games. Then the VR headset came in, then AR headset came in. So all this was kind of just funneling my almost like career progression. And so that's what I would call was the opportunity. I think past, well, let's say 20 years for me, the technology was evolving, and that was the biggest opportunity I saw. And my curiosity just pushed me there naturally. And I think the same is happening right now for anyone here. Is like last 5 years, let's say, or 4 years, the AI, generative AI and physical AI is really booming, and it's moving so fast that there is so many opportunities. So I kind of just, again, follow this and see, like, hey, what we can build and what I would like to do. But then also at my role at Monks, we see how the industry is changing. So we know how our clients need to adapt to those new technologies. So then I help our teams to design the right solutions, make sure we have the right talent in-house to build those solutions across industries, across our clients, and across the use cases they need to adapt. So that's another opportunity more on the business side, which I see, and I try to help the clients, the company to achieve it.
Yeah, I totally get that. When I was a teacher, I felt like a lot of my students kind of just expected, I check these boxes, I get this job. But it's not so much of that like black and white kind of resume that would get you to new opportunities. It's about being open for change. It's about keeping your eyes and ears open, and putting your hands in all these different pots and baskets. Like, I think that is, as perfectly said, it's not this like clear cut and dry way to get to what you want, just exploring different opportunities. And Nandu, like I want to ask you a similar question, because you have also a long career in this blend of industries, but I really especially loved learning about your history of where you were working with children. So what made you jump from this like technical project management to creating that makerspace? Like now, and then now you do the industrial inspection. Can you talk a little bit about that? Oh, you're muted.
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, the from a technical program management, like IT program management, to like as I mentioned, I got an opportunity to start a makerspace because my kids were at an age where they were learning fast, and they wanted to participate in the first robotics teams. And then we had a bunch of people in our community, and then we said like, okay, let's do something. And that's how we started the makerspace. And then once we started the makerspace, it dawned upon me that it's not just sufficient that we teach kids just like robotics or 3D printing. So we started we moved we kind of like added from STEM to we became STEAM. So we started teaching arts classes. And the good thing was there was a mentor, there were a few mentors who were really good at art. So we started kind of like teaching them, a lot of art in terms of doing from their using their hands. And a lot of one of the key things is you get an opportunity here for all the various activities, or throughout the year. Like say if you say for Halloween, hey, build something new that's kind of like has either some electronic circuits and some hands-on stuff, right? So for Christmas. So that's how and one of the key things that I also learned as part of teaching to children was the entire paradigm of the Feynman technique, which is anything that you want to understand, if you're able to teach somebody, then you have understood that really well. And I think those are the kinds of things that I learned when we were teaching kids. And our main objective was how can we we saw that there were rapid advancements that were happening with respect to robotics, 3D printing, and all of these areas. So we wanted to encourage a lot of kids to in our community to learn about that. And that's how we started. And one thing led to another, and then we started learning a lot of these things ourselves, and then to figure out how to work on some of the latest advanced hardware, software, everything. And so that's when I got an opportunity to design some solutions for inspections. So that's how we started thinking about why don't we build some robotic solution for that, right? So as we were already building 3D printers for the classroom, so that's how we started thinking about. And to do that, I had to learn a lot about industrial inspection, what we call as non-destructive testing and non-destructive evaluation, where they use specifically ultrasound sensing. So we had to learn about sensing, and then once you have data that's coming in, you have to do data capture, data analysis, data integration, and then one thing led to another, and now we are working to build digital twins. And specifically on the industrial side, we are working on, okay, so we have all this data that's coming from these inspection technologies. So how do we integrate that into digital twins? And also as part of the process, the data could be captured through a manual process, could be semi-automated, or could be automated. So now, things are coming full circle, because now I need to understand, okay, so what is the speed with which this robotic arm is moving when it is sensing, right? So there are all these technologies, and as I mentioned, all the bits and pieces that I've worked on over the years finally is coming to fruition, and things are coming into place. And I think so add to one of the things that Peter mentioned, curiosity. So one other thing I would also like to add, apart from passion, curiosity, is grit, because there will be times when you're going to fail, and you're going to fail hard. So you need to kind of like build that system wherever you could be working in classroom, or even in your workplace. So you need to build support of your team members, so that any time that you fail, so you keep moving forward to solve these problems and challenges. So yeah, so that's my story. Yeah.
I love it. You said something earlier when you started speaking, is teaching the students not so much about like just that one trend thing that they're working on right now, but like skills, so that when these technologies evolve, you're already able to get on top of it. It kind of reminds me of that old proverb, like give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So trends, like they come and go. We know that right now AI is quote unquote a trend. There's literally drinking games where someone says like, how many times can you hear AI in a keynote? Those are my favorite. But trends come and go. It's really the skills that matter and adapting to that technology. So Eric, I wanted to throw a question at you. As a recruiter at NVIDIA, you may know this better than most about the skills. What do you, as a recruiter, what do you look for in a person, or even a resume that's not just trendy but transferable to multiple skills, especially for cross-functional jobs like we have here in digital twins and robotics?
Yeah, great question. And those transferable skills are really what's key here. So to answer the question initially, the non-fun answer is that it depends, right? Every role is looking for something different, at least in terms of baseline technological skills. And you either meet those must-have requirements or you don't, so that's the first filter right there. And then beyond that, there are definitely some ways to stand out, assuming you already check most of the boxes. Don't have to check them all, but most of the boxes on the required skills. There are some other ways to stand out, and that's mainly through transferable skills, interpersonal skills, human to human skills that can't really be replaced by AI or will be valuable no matter what the trends are, right? So my answer to this is really threefold. So there's one, the interpersonal skills, building these leadership skills, non necessarily quantifiable skills, but skills that are demonstrated through interviews and speaking with someone. So leadership, communication, collaboration is very big, especially in cross-functional environments such as ours. And really looking for people who are not just individual contributors, but who are leaders and either led a project or led a team. People who don't just complete tasks, but are creators and inventors. They started something from beginning to end. We look for people who think outside of the box, and aren't your standard template type of candidate, but folks who actually started something or created something or led something in school, for example. So all kinds of different ways to sort of stand out and show that you're well-rounded. So those interpersonal skills are very big. And then I'll also add that in this AI emerging, world where AI is being heavily used in nearly every industry that there is, it's important to become domain or subject matter experts in the areas you're passionate about. So as I mentioned earlier, whether that's robotics, autonomous vehicles, gaming, movies, it's important to start developing these this experience and knowing these industry kind of skills so that you're a much more competitive candidate than someone who's more of a generalist, has the baseline technical skills, but doesn't have that domain or industry experience. So there's that. And then I'll wrap it up by also saying what's really big now, especially with AI being involved in every industry, is becoming really good prompt engineers and utilizing AI. There's that quote, our CEO Jensen has said it, others have said it, that, AI is not going to take your job, but people who utilize AI will. And so being really good at prompt engineering, knowing how to utilize AI to accelerate workflows, to, be more efficient in your role is really useful in, every industry, because every role is really going to utilize AI agents. And so being really good at that is going to be really key. And lastly, I'll just say one more plus nice to have is technologies within the area you're applying to. So for NVIDIA, is very big to know NVIDIA Omniverse, NVIDIA Isaac Robotics Lab, if you're looking at robotics, NVIDIA Drive OS. So being familiar with these technologies from the companies that you're applying to just shows that you're that much more of an expertise in the tools that you'll be using day to day.
Yeah, that's so greatly said. I'm sure a lot of people are having that question, so thank you for answering it so thoroughly. I wanted to touch again on those, like, the transferable skills that you bring up a few times. We all come from these different backgrounds. We have different degrees. We come from different schools, and literally different schools all around the world. But yet we've all kind of made it into similar industries. It's really no doubt that these skills that we learned were fundamental to our transition. So Renato, let me ask you, what skills did you learn throughout your early career and your education that you think were the most foundational to where you're at now?
I think this pretty much comes full circle on everything that we were talking about. Like, first and foremost is like going beyond technology itself is like having a good logical reasoning, understanding the problem on a broad spectrum, and then also being able to communicate this idea to other people on the team and form this group together, drive this innovation, and give them trust that the idea that you have is a strong idea that will have a possible future, so that the people buy in and work with you towards the same goal. So this is like on the soft skill side, where you have a good interpersonal communication, you share this culture and you share this vision with people, and you build this collective with everyone around you for that as well. But aside from that, going back on the being able to present and communicate this, it is really important that all the projects and ideas that you have a clear and concise demonstration for the public. So if it is a code project, have a GitHub with everything there, very well documented, with clear steps on how to reproduce and execute your code. If you have presentable results, if it's interesting, like a simulation, make a video of it explaining everything with a beginning and an end, show the intermediate steps, what are the things that are important, what matters on it. It doesn't need to have a narrative on the video. It can be just like an image, like a slideshow in a sense. But if you have a narrative, is much better. You can communicate much more with that as well. So it goes back into like presenting skills. If it is an art project, have a portfolio with everything together and make it nice, because we like to see nice things, and this actually make a big difference.
Yeah, nice is a good way to put it. Make it attractive is a good segue into my next question. Did any of you, and I'll start with you, Renato, did any of you do something to make yourself more attractive to a hiring company or committee? Did you get like a hacker rank? Did you frequently polish your website or even your GitHub? Renato, do you do anything like that?
Actually, I do. I do not have a personal website. This is something that I have to work on. But my GitHub, I have projects that I worked on. External courses, like getting not only the basic coursework on the university, but everything that I did extra. I built projects, and those projects, they are publicly available, documented on the GitHub. Some of those I made videos. As I mentioned, the GTA 5 one was actually the video that I shared with recruiters for NVIDIA, and what got me in. That was the one that pulled me in for the next phases of the internship process. So this is 100% the way to go. And this is what we also look for when we are interviewing candidates. When I have their profile, we look on their GitHub. We check what is out there. What is the quality of the code that they put in? Is it well documented? Is it well structured? Does it have test cases? But also, if they have a web portfolio, we check on those as well. We see the projects. We see what is interesting. This leads to very nice questions during the interview as well. So if you don't know what to ask, or have your website ready, because it also helps us to drive a nice conversation with the candidates as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, did you do anything to make yourself more attractive as you were moving throughout your career? Did you clean that website that you made when you were 17?
I still have a to-do list to make my personal website. But I think as I started very early with maybe more like professional jobs, I think those ones were showcasing my progress in my career. So I could speak to them, and I was always super hands-on, so I could explain in detail what happened in each project. So I think that was maybe the major driver for it. But if I would pick one thing, I would agree with Renato. It's GitHub, it's prototypes. Do quick recordings of your prototypes. If you make it look nice, it's amazing. But I always try to have some passion projects on the side, which I could speak to. And I think those ones are getting most maybe focus and attract most interest when you speak about them, because it's something like usually was never done before or is very niche. So recruiters even, I think, would be interested to hear you explaining what you actually did.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
hopefully I will finish my website at some point as well, but I would say prototypes are way to go.
My website out there right now is like the first I ever built. I look at it so often and go, ugh, but I have no interest in updating it, though I should. It's hard to get to that kind of stuff. But it's also a good reminder of how far you've come.
Yes, I think my first website, which I built completely, was for the interview for that first job. That was like first complete website where I was like, okay, let's build something what change pages and has all the routing. And since then, I didn't find time for my personal website, but I did a lot of personal passion projects.
Very cool. So sorry if anyone can hear my dogs. They're wanting to comment on websites and stuff. Who knows what they're talking about. Nandu, did you do anything to make yourself more attractive throughout your career to hiring committees and companies?
Yeah, I think at least over the last few years, definitely it's been more on, again, building the websites for the entities that I'm working on, more not a personal website, but also like more on the side of like whether it's a makerspace or for 3D printing for education. So we had specific building those websites, and then creating the GitHub repos for all of those to whether you want to build we had a challenge for the May 4th where you could build a robot using Raspberry Pi or any of those and 3D print parts and attach your own with some sensors on it, right? So things like that. We had projects that were shared with the communities free of charge, so they could download the 3D prints and do stuff. And definitely off late with industrial inspection, I've been presenting at various events. This year I had at a couple of events. So yeah, so we're getting some visibility, and that's how I'm kind of like taking my I should say game to the next level. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned the 3D printing stuff, because I think a lot of people would view that as a hobby sometimes. And like, I have a 3D printer and I print like really silly things like a very buff duck, but I've never thought to like add it to my resume. So I'm glad that you keep bringing it up, where it's like an important skill that we see a lot in like digital twins, physical AI, and robotics.
Yeah, I think one of the things, it so happened that I learned 3D printing from, like with building the 3D printers and all of that stuff, like, somewhere in 2016 and stuff. And, when COVID hit, 2019 hit, so I was printing, the face shields and masks. So, that came real handy because like, we were donating those to a lot of local, maker spaces and other places where they could hand out to people who were in need of them. So I think it's a it's a great skill because you learn a lot of like things that you never anticipated, and the thing is you never know when these skills are going to come into play. So again, going back to the garden idea, the Zen garden idea, right? So all of these are kind of like kind of like your tool sets in your chest, so you don't know when you're going to use them in your life. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know we're going to go over a little time, but I want to be mindful. Is there anyone I need to kind of get to quickly if you have another call after this? I know it's a busy week right before the holidays. Are we all good? Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, for staying on. We are going to be closing up soon, but Eric, I wanted to touch on yours as well. Was there anything you had to do to polish your resume up to make yourself more attractive?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, especially in my case, going from the work I was in, college advising, working in higher education, nonprofit, to tech and corporate, I had to really pick out what were the transferable skills, what were the related job duties that I had in my previous experience, that are related to the role I was applying to. And so luckily there were some things I pulled out, like managing a cohort, working with students, managing data, things like that. And then also, of course, being in the university kind of landscape, I think was also very transferable. But I also threw in, funny enough, from my early days from architecture, all of the tools that I ended up learning, like Rhino, Adobe, Illustrator, Photoshop, AutoCAD, just to make myself seem that much more of a technical person, and that, hey, I'm familiar with this world. I can kind of hold my own and speak with folks about technology. And so whether or not that helped, I'm not sure, but moral of the story is definitely to tailor your resume to every role that you're applying to, because your experience will look different and there's different things you can pick out that are related to one role, but might not be as related to others. So definitely tailor your resume to each unique role that you apply to.
Oh my gosh, I love that advice so much. I went back to school with NYU and was so fortunate to have a career coach with them. And my career coach, I really made them work for their salary. I had them help me with my resume and a cover letter for like everything I was applying for. And they did such a good job as like looking at the job that I was applying for and being like, adjust this, take this out. Did I need to list that I worked at like 5 different restaurants while I was like in college? No. So I'm really glad that you said that advice. It's good to tailor your resume to what you're applying to. So thank you for that. And that kind of, again, leads us into our next. You guys are great at segueing me into my next part of the panel. I want to do a quick round table. This is all for everyone. What is one word of advice that you have for people looking to make the change? And if there's a specific industry you recommend they look into? And Eric, we'll just start with you and then go down the line.
I would say persist would be my one word. To give some context, just keep going, trust the process. You never know how the cards might unfold. So just follow your passions, do what you know now, and the rest will take care of itself. So just make sure to be persistent.
Great. Renato?
Sorry, I kind of phased out. Could you repeat the question?
Your one word of advice.
My one word of advice. I think build your passion. Like rephrasing our CEO is like, find the things that you're passionate about, create work on that and show it, because your effort is going to come naturally from it, and it's going to be much easier to display.
Great. Nandu?
I would say team. So NVIDIA Omniverse Discard is a team. So what has really worked for me was like finding the like-minded people. And then what we have done is we have taken those people and created a group where we kind of like brainstorm on a lot of various problems and solutions, all the way from OpenUSD to Isaac Sim to Omniverse. And then we address those problems and challenges, because we come from different backgrounds, from engineering to artists to every group. And my suggestion is like, form your own small team, because the future is like, there are some projects where you got to work on your own, and there are projects that you need to work with others. And I think having that is going to enormously improve your confidence, because now you're talking to people, sharing, understanding, challenging. So yeah, no, that would be the thing that I would say.
Very cool. Peter?
For me, one word would be prototype. Build something. Again, I will repeat myself. Hands-on. Learn. Maybe where to start. I saw some questions around this. Find tutorial from NVIDIA or someone on YouTube doing something in this space and try to replicate it. Put the effort in. Learn by doing. And I think that will give you the confidence, and also will make interesting topic in your interviews. One, you're describing what you actually did, and you can showcase it. I think that will put you ahead in this race. And then in terms of industries, I think all of the industries will transform. So I would say start close to where you are, whichever industry it is, and try to find how physical AI will impact it. Because I believe every industry will get impacted, and we see it, for example, at Monks. We have use cases across automotive, real estate, product configurations, marketing assets. So there is healthcare. Every industry will need this solution. So start where we are close and then prototype.
Very well said. And I'm going to pick Eric's brain a little bit more because we have a great opportunity to have a recruiter on who touches very closely with lots of different events and opportunities for people who are looking to transition their careers or early in their careers. But before I do that, I want to be mindful of other people's time. Peter, Nandu, Renato, was there anything I didn't get to ask you that you wanted to touch on?
I can go first. So I know, we talked a lot about using AI tools across the workflows and learning those tools. I think one of the things that I'm discovering, and I think probably every developer should look into, is using these tools for development as well, because it's not just a development. Because the way things are emerging, you will be able to use these tools to become kind of reach the level of expert, as part of your, if you learn to use the tool effectively. Because I think I just was experimenting with Google's anti-gravity. I think there is an option where I can set all my code and then say, okay, I don't know something, or what am I missing in my knowledge gap? Teach me, right? So that is an experimentation that I'm currently running. I think these tools are enormously beneficial, and I think it's going to help you become better at what you do. And I think at the end of the day, these are the tools, and we need to figure out how we can be good at it and how we can use in our work. So.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Nandu was mentioning is I think the coding with AI is extremely useful. It drives productivity a lot, but it's a great opportunity to learn how to use the tool and using the tool to learn as well. So don't go on the very tempting idea of vibe coding. Really use that as a tool that you build code more efficiently and more quickly, but always look into what is the outcome, what it's doing, figure out where things didn't go exactly as planned with the output of the AI coding. So you can become a better developer by using the tool and not relying on the tool to become a developer.
Yeah. And from my side, I would just add one advice, which I see often when I speak to some other developers transitioning. They see maybe AI and they get scared because it's very broad term. And same goes for digital twins or physical AI. It just sounds something very complex. And usually developers pick the most difficult part and they feel like, oh, I cannot do it. I cannot create my own model. I cannot come up with new architecture for the model. But you don't need to know all this. You don't need to publish research papers. And usually in these professional settings, the team is wide. And I'm sure that many developers on these calls, when you have any skills you have, you can apply them in some part of this production. Because researchers need to work with engineers, need to work with developers. For example, for digital twins, I think, Renato, you said make things nice. If you like making things nice, focus on visuals with RTX. If you like 3D, focus on OpenUSD assets. You can focus on optimization, simulations, physics, or just coding logic, more like a backend development logic of the application. UI as well has its plane, scale, DevOps. So if you are a dev and trying to enter either AI, physical AI, or any new space, just know that, yes, you will work with super smart people who solve very hard problems, but then there is so much to do to bring any solution, any model to production at scale that I'm sure you can contribute with skills you already have today. So don't get scared.
Yeah, thank you all for adding that. I want to transition into talking a little bit about recruitment, but if anybody here needs to drop for something else, don't be shy too. I thank you all for joining. We do want to do a Q&A at the end, so if you can stay, we would greatly appreciate you being able to answer some questions from our audience. But before we do that, and before we get to our call to actions as well, Eric, I wanted to talk about your job. It's really unique. You get to interact with lots of different people, especially with the early career talent, like I was saying before. And when you were on the university recruiting team, all the very, very involved events that they do. That team is very small but mighty. I actually had the privilege of getting to work with 2 people from that team at FIU, and to see it in action was really amazing and really inspiring. During that event, they did like a hackathon, which included like a job fair and like a networking lounge and a webinar. It was awesome. So what inspires you the most when you're meeting with students and when you're meeting with new grads? And then do you have any advice for someone who may be watching this and want to start polishing their resume and skills to be ready for a next recruiting event?
Yes. So for this particular audience, for OpenUSD creators, I think the first step in terms of your career search, what's important is to identify whether you want to go down the artistic and creative route or more technical engineering side of things. Here at NVIDIA, we like to say, we do creative technology, and so it's marrying both worlds. But some places are a lot more leaning on the creative side. Some places are a lot more leaning on the technical engineering side. So first and foremost, you want to identify which road you want to go down. Both are great options, but you got to identify what are you truly passionate about. And then from there, if you lean more towards wanting to get into the technical space and work at places like NVIDIA and Meta and all these great places using simulation technology and OpenUSD for more technical applications, then you'll really want to develop a foundational technological experience. So that means working with tools, learning a little bit of coding. AI can help with a lot of that moving forward, but you'll want to have some foundational knowledge on how to use it, what's good and what's bad code, for example. And things like mathematics, geometry, of course, are very big in this space. But aside from those core technical foundation skills, ways to stand out, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, but to dive a little bit deeper, is folks who really think outside of the box and really stand out, raise the bar and move the needle, all the cliche sayings, but folks who have that drive and passion. And so some examples of what I've seen in my experience as a recruiter over time, just to paint a picture on like what exactly I mean by being someone different or thinking outside of the box, is one candidate got recognized by a VP here from his social media work. He was doing a lot of content around Isaac Robotics and the tools that we use and how he's been utilizing it and school projects he's done just for fun, just for the passion of the work, not looking to get a job or get recognized or anything, but just because he was passionate about it, and it went viral, caught the attention of our VP, and that candidate ended up getting hired for an internship here. So that's just one example, if you're extroverted, but let's say you're not as extroverted. Let's say you're a little bit more introverted and you don't want to put yourself out there as much. There's still other ways to demonstrate your intellectual curiosity. Another example that always comes to mind for me is a really strong candidate who struggled in one particular question during a technical interview and ended up following up with the hiring manager, who was the interviewer, to elaborate more on that problem. And, he thought about it some more after the interview, gave it some thought, and wanted to revise his response just for the sake of thinking through a problem and trying to solve a problem. And so that really caught the attention of the hiring manager as well. So these are just a couple examples that I mean when I say, demonstrating your passion, being someone who thinks outside of the box, and being more of a creator, developer, innovator, rather than just an individual contributor doing day-to-day tasks, which of course is great to build that experience, but we're looking folks who are really gonna raise the bar here. So that's the overall response I would say on what we look for, and ways to build that are just through fun passion projects that you can be doing now in school or even outside of school online. We fortunately live in a time where you get access to Coursera and LinkedIn Learning and all these great online tools to further strengthen your resume.
Yeah, I think adding to Eric, I have another story to share. On our team, we have one of our engineers got hired and recruited, by the way, because he was very active in our community forums with answering questions and showing and demonstrating the expertise he had in the simulation environments, especially the one that we built. So he was an active member. We almost like had him as a trusted source for responding to the forum even before he was hired. And turns out he is one of the most amazing engineers we know in our team as well.
Actually, Renato, that just sparked a memory in my mind that you mentioned that. Just a quick anecdote, Ash.
You probably know them, yeah.
Renato, when you were being hired, I was on the university team, and you were a strong candidate that we talked about as a must hire, and we have to do what we can to make it work. I know that was a complicated onboarding situation, but just as an example of how much you stood out, that all these years later, I remember your name, you know, and I remember that time when we were hiring you. So my advice to candidates would just be as much as you can, try to be that candidate that the hiring team is going to remember long after the interview, and just think about you and say, you know, this is a must hire.
That's so great. That feels so inspiring, and I was smiling the whole time because these stories are. I love that you said that there's multiple ways to be noticed, to put your best foot forward. You don't have to be this extroverted person that's like an influencer on screen all the time. There's other ways that you can impress these hiring managers. For myself, I actually was hired because I was noticed on LinkedIn. I was posting my portfolio from when I was doing XR development with NYU, and like every other day I was posting, even if I had a problem, I was like, oh my God, I can't figure out this dumb thing on Unity. And a hiring manager here at NVIDIA saw my LinkedIn. I had a blend of skills that were unique, teaching and creative 3D skills and development. I knew some coding. And that was like exactly what that hiring manager was looking for. So that's just not an NVIDIA. That's kind of all over the industry, is like, being impressive to hiring communities and hiring companies, and you don't have to be extroverted to do it. You can find creative ways to put your best foot forward. So that I want to welcome Krista here on the stage. She has our, I'll let her introduce herself. I think she can talk about it a little bit better than I can. So Krista, are you ready? I'll pull you up. Here she is.
Hello. Yeah, I've been listening on this panel, and it's been awesome to hear everyone's stories. I also have a similar journey. I started in architecture, went to architecture school, became a licensed architect, and worked in different 3D design roles for several years before joining NVIDIA. And then once I joined here, I found all the great work we were doing with the industrial space with digital twins and building these digital worlds to train robots and physical AI systems. And so I'm very passionate about embracing change and just seeing, you know, where the world is going. And I actually wanted to share some of the resources you guys could use to get started with your own journey. So let me see if I can present. So as you've noticed, several of us on this call are USD certified, and USD is at the core of everything we do with these 3D worlds. So I highly recommend you check out Learn OpenUSD, which is our free open source curriculum that we've built here at NVIDIA. And this is good for anyone going into any 3D world. It doesn't have to be robotics. It doesn't have to be digital twins. This is all very vanilla content that's just about building a strong foundation in OpenUSD, which was developed by Pixar for the media and entertainment world. So start here. The great part about this is we just recently open sourced it, so we accept contributions and we welcome contributions. You can clone this, have it on your desktop, do whatever you want with it, feed it into AI. We want to see what you do with it. You can localize it. You can build your own little activities. So please have fun with this, own it, create your own content, share it with us, tag us on it, go to the Discord, tell us what you're doing. But definitely check out Learn OpenUSD. And then once you've kind of got the foundation, I recommend you check out 2 different paths. We've got one that's focused more on the digital twin side and one that's focused more on the robotics side. So assembling digital twins with Omniverse and OpenUSD. This is a great one. We provide the assets for you, so you don't need to start from scratch. And It also has a lot of great activities in here that teach you kind of why that USD development skill is important. So the different scripts you can build to automate pipelines or make things more efficient, or to build these really powerful 3D worlds. And I know a hot topic today has been using AI in your work too. I do not have a background in coding, but AI has enabled me to build my own scripts for some of these things. But you still want to have that foundation in USD and the USD development background to understand how to use AI effectively. I think Renato and Peter both talked about that. We also have learning content for robotics. All of this is free and available. It's not gated, but we have a learning path for Isaac Sim, and then also for Isaac Lab. So once you kind of understand how to simulate robotics, then you want to train your robots and build these intelligent robots. So both of these are available. There's a lot of information here that's just knowledge too. So you don't even need a computer to do this. You can just kind of read it and understand what we're talking about here. The other great thing I do want to mention is, even if you don't have a GPU enabled machine or an RTX enabled machine, you can still join us on this journey through our Brev launchables. So there's a link here. I think Amelia has also shared both of the links in the chat, but we've got a Brev launchable for building your own kit app, which you can use for the digital twin learning path, and then a Brev launchable for Isaac. And if you guys aren't familiar with Brev, that probably means you haven't watched some of our live streams in the past, but essentially these are GPUs on demand that you can access in the cloud. So there's instructions here. You pay by the hour. It's all in a browser. So you could do this on an iPad. You could do this on your PC, wherever you want. And then you have control over that environment and how to access it. So we've built some kind of getting started ones specifically for Isaac Sim and Isaac Lab, and then also building a kit template. And the last thing I wanted to share was the USD developer page. So if everything I just showed you is overwhelming and you're like, this is too many pages, this is kind of the one thing I would recommend you bookmark. You can get access to all of our other content through this page. So this is another great one to save. That's all I had.
Wow, it's a lot, and I hope others are not feeling overwhelmed. There's so much great stuff out there. We've done some live streams before where we talked about these learning paths and how to use Brev, and the amount of information is to guide users and learners and developers down this journey. So you can start kind of from scratch, and as Chris has said, like, you don't even have to know how to code. You can just go through the resources and brush up on the content. That's really good. You can use Brev to get hands-on. So lots of great resources for you. Krista, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And then in just a few minutes here, like in like 10 minutes, if you're watching live, we have Nandu. He hosts a OpenUSD study group. Nandu, can you talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll get to the Q&A.
Sure, yeah. So if you go to the NVIDIA Omniverse Discord channel, under the events, you'll find all the information. So we have OpenUSD discussions every Fridays, which is at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And one of the current challenges that we are working on is like, how can we make sure the CAD data that we bring into Omniverse is consistent, with various different formats. So it's a deep challenge. So if you are up to, you can join us, or if you want to share anything on OpenUSD, you want to brainstorm, you want to learn. So join us, and we have all the resources, all the sessions that we do are recorded and posted on Google Drive, so you can watch the previous ones. And we have our objective is to build support for the community. So yeah.
Wonderful. You said in Discord. I'm going to throw this Discord banner up. It's going to like block all of us, but this is the Discord link. If you need it, there you go. Nice and big. It covered all of our faces. I pulled an Edmar since I'm Edmar 2.0 today. All right, let's get to some questions. Thank you all for staying on so we can answer some from our audience. There's a few that I think that are really valuable to answer. The first one I want to bring up is we got this earlier in the stream. What is the current hurdle to make physical AI possible? Is it data scarcity, AI understanding of physics, or something else? Anybody here on the panel want to be able to take that? I think this is a really loaded question because it's quite a few different things.
Yeah. I can probably start answering, and someone can catch on where I leave. There's a lot hurdles to make the physical AI generally possible. Data scarcity is the biggest one, and that's what the simulation comes in place. Because getting data from your robots is extremely expensive to the point where I think it is humanly impossible to get the entirety of data that we need to train robots to be fundamentally working with AI models possible. So we do need simulation for that, and because of simulation, then we introduce new problems into it. One of them is, how do we make the simulation match what we see on the reality? How do we make this robot behave in the same way that it does in my living room? Into the simulation environment. And if we cannot make it work in the same way, how do we make a policy that was trained in simulation work on this robot in the real life? So there are pipelines that we can get to work towards to make this work in real life. But it adds to the effort. We need to learn new capabilities. One important skill, I would say, in the AI learning environment is what we call the randomization, where we can randomize aspects of our simulation to make it encompass the entire domain of where the robot would be in real life. So there's all this kind of skills that we need to learn and understand how to apply them into our training environment.
Yeah,
Well tackled.
Adding to the data scarcity, the other challenge is the complexity and all the variety of the environments in which the robots need to work. Just a humanoid robot, right? So I think that's another big challenge. So I think this is probably something that as a society, as we start working, I think different parts of the society will work on different areas of the functioning of the humanoid robot, and I think that's how we are going to train this thing. I don't think it'll be just one entity or one person is going to be able to do that. So I think this is a vast challenge, right? So yeah.
Great. Anybody else want to comment on this? All right, I'm going to move on. Here's another great question. As an AI and DS student from India, how can I make myself industry ready for upcoming shift towards physical AI and simulation-driven development?
I can start. So I think the first and foremost is to learn some 3D skills. Because no matter what, you're going to be working on, especially with physical AI. So understanding the 3D data flow pipelines, how it's being done today, and then pick some simple projects and start working on them. And there are a lot of resources, including at NVIDIA, in terms of for the Omniverse as well as OpenUSD. So start learning them, and I think that's probably a good start.
Yeah, I would agree on tech. Pick the engine, learn some basics in 3D, and then try experiment with simulations. That could be good start. But then I don't know what skills you have now. You can probably combine it. If you have some AI skills, bring them in, use them in the engine.
Anyone else? It's all great advice.
I would say very specific to simulation, because physical AI is all about physics simulation and environment simulation, is understand what is the process of a physics simulation engine. So like what happens in between you sending a command to your AI agent and the simulation doing what it needs to do until your next command for the simulation agent. So you understand how you collect the observations from the simulation, what the engine expects, and then how do you pass this information back so that you can affect changes on the simulated environment. That would be a fundamental skill that you will need moving forward. I would definitely apply some time into it.
Cool.
Yeah. On my end, just more of a high-level answer. I would just reiterate and emphasize, to not underestimate the impact of online courses, certifications, Most of the folks here are OpenUSD certified. That's a great place to start for folks who, if you aren't already, and just all the tools accessible at your fingertips. Make sure your GitHub is super polished and do just some fun online passion projects. So don't underestimate the opportunity of passion projects, and they're all out there, and luckily we all have access to them.
That leads us into the next question. What is the roadmap to start working in 3D simulation? And what are the hardware requirements that I need to start working in this topic? I think this is a common question that we get. It's like direct action, because it can be a little overwhelming to be like, what do I need to even get started on this? Do any of you have advice?
I think we kind of covered some of it in previous discussion, but if you already have some basics, let's say, I would, for 3D simulation and robotics, I would try Isaac Sim, download it, and try to do some prototyping using that engine. And hardware requirements, again, depends if you're in the cloud or on your personal message, but I think any RTX 4090 and up will do. Even
I think from the hardware side, I would say try the Brev first, right? So you have some free credits, so or even Google credits, any of them you can try, and you can learn some of the the basics of Omniverse and Isaac Sim. So that will be really helpful in terms of building these 3D simulations. And any 3D package or any of the say whether it's on the CAD side or on the Blender or any of these other packages, if you have experience, that is a big plus, a big help, because it'll give you a lot of ideas in terms of how these things work. So yeah, and understanding the pipeline, the 3D pipeline. So
great. All right, I'm going to end on this question here because I just love seeing early career starts, even as early as 11 and 9 years old. This dad asks, what's the best, fun, simple first step to guide them towards this career path?
Well, I can start with that because I have done a lot of Lego robotics teaching. So I think that's a fun place to start. Lego robotics. However, our company is also part of OpenUSD, and recently I learned as part of their DI initiative, so they're bringing in OpenUSD for early learning, for schools. So I think that could be a good fit. And there are also, I think, some 3D packages that kids can start playing around. One of the things I'd done when I started working on building 3D printers was the big gap is in the 3D skills and how to teach that early on in students' education. And you can print 3D printed assets that can teach 3D visualization. So which is kind of fascinating to me. So I think there are tools, there are mobile games. So there are computer browser-based softwares to teach 3D visualization. I think letting the kids play with that would be a fantastic start.
And I think we don't need to stick to learning apps. Video games are also amazing at learning 3D skills. So at that age, I would say it is more than appropriate to let them play a little bit of video games as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I think from my side, I see a lot of kits for electrical, mechanical prototyping, even for kids, also in robotics. I don't have kids yet, but I saw so many cool things I want to use. They're good robots, very simple to program or use. But also I would explore something like building blocks, physical thing, maybe even non-digital, where your daughter or son can understand the physics, the construction of something which can fall, basics of construction, physics, and building blocks. And if it's generic and they can build almost anything they want, it will also bring their curiosity and creativity.
Well, that's great to end on, and I can't help myself, but I need to shout out Scratch and Makey. Those were great resources for the students. When I was a teacher and teaching in the pandemic, I was an art teacher, and I was like, how do I teach art online? I learned Scratch, and my students connected it to Makey Makey. They were able to like create like little pianos that they coded in Scratch, and then connected to their actual Makey Makey, and like hooked it up to little pieces on their paper, and were able to like create video game console or remotes for their video game on their Scratch, or create a piano. Like actually getting hands-on is like super fun for that age. So I'm going to end it there. This has been such a fun conversation. I love that we can do this on a live stream because I can go over time a little bit. So thank you all so much for allowing me to do so. This conversation was so much fun. I didn't want it to end. Eric, Renato, Nandu, Peter, you have wonderful stories. I'm so glad to be able to tell them on this live stream, and it's safe for the internet to watch over and over again. Any last remarks before we say our goodbyes?
Yeah, I can go first. So I think, as I already mentioned, Omniverse Discord is a great channel. Also, look for mentors, somebody who can help you out when you're lost, because there is too much of information out there. So I think narrowing down the focus can help you learn better. So.
Yeah, from my side, good luck everyone in your careers. I think this is very interesting industry and the space to be in. So you are in the right place. And now just take it, prototype some cool things, and land your first jobs or next jobs. So all the best.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you all for having me. It was great speaking with you all and joining on this panel, and just wishing everyone, our audience, the absolute best of luck in their career search and their work and just everything they do, and remember that the future is still being built. AI is going to change the world, and there's so much opportunity out there to come. So just keep on keeping on, and things will work out.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a privilege to be here as well. And I can't wait to see some of your faces either on GTC or at some interview for our team, if you want to join us as well.
And Renato, don't think I didn't catch that cat trying to say goodbye to all of us as well.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll catch you all next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
I'm trying to figure out how to play